everybody. Welcome to Expat Diaries podcast. Today we are speaking with Jamie Lynch, and I'm excited. Jamie and I got to have a conversation and kind of touch base on all things. And it's so funny because I was going to name this episode Retired His Boston Terrier, and I love that he's right there behind you on the floor.
Yeah,
Is that the old dog or the new?
He doesn't go far. That's the old one. That's Butters. Butters.
That's hysterical. Yeah. So I'm so excited to have you here because, first of all, I'm a big dog person too. So the fact that your puppy got to make it into the broadcast is the best thing ever. Okay. So let's talk about a few things. I started this podcast, like I told you, to literally give a voice to the expats who've done the thing that so many people are out there looking to do. We see in all of the Facebook groups, it'll be 3 or 4 times a week. They'll be like, hey, me and my wife and my 2 kids are thinking about moving to Costa Rica. What do I need to think about? Right. And a lot of times they're met with some level of negativity or bits and pieces of information that just relate to them. And I just if they wanted to tune in and learn a story of someone who actually made that transition, either from the US or from Canada or from any other part of the world down to Costa Rica. Everybody has their own different journey, and Jamie does too. And I just kind of want to walk through what that looked like for you whenever you made that decision that you were heading south. So you're living in Canada, you're born and raised there. Yes.
I don't know. It just the economy. I mean, I'm privileged to be born in Canada. I'm not going to hate on the fact that, I definitely had, I guess, more opportunities than most people, they would say, but I just didn't see, I was born in 1986. So, it's, I'm a millennial, and it seems that there's it's really, really difficult to buy a house. I just didn't see a future there. I just really didn't get locked in a mortgage, the typical, what everybody would say, 9 to 5, get locked into a mortgage. I mean, we were talking about yesterday, I worked in the hospitality industry my entire life. I make good money on paper, or not on paper, with, tips and stuff like that. But I couldn't go into a bank, even though they want to tax me on the tips. I can't go into the bank and use those, to get a mortgage or anything like that. Nor do I want to, be locked into, 30, 40-year mortgage. So,
right. Yeah. And I think from what, and if I'm being ignorant about this, let me know. But I think real estate in Canada is pretty pricey.
It's ridiculous. So I was watching something on the news the other day. They were comparing prices between Windsor, Ontario, and just across the border and around Detroit and stuff like that. I'm not talking ghetto areas or anything like that, decent areas. And the prices were, for what you were getting, it was disgusting. For what you're paying $1 million for in Canada, what you would get, across the border is far significant to what you would get. There was no comparison there. And it goes back to just, our taxes and just how the government and things have been going on. And again, unfortunately, I left when I did, pre-COVID, but now things have just got completely out of control, and I can't see myself going back. So,
right. And my home in the U.S. is in Missouri, and just so by comparison, you'll probably pull your eyebrows out after this, but so I have a 3,200 square foot home, 5-bedroom, 3.5 baths. In-ground pool, privacy fenced, huge yard in a pretty private neighborhood. $250,000.
That's what I'm saying. I'm from the East Coast of Canada originally, and normally the housing market in the East Coast has been, quite different than the rest of the country, because people didn't want to live there. Most people would leave and go they would keep their family there or work out in the oil rigs in Alberta. But normally the housing market in the East Coast it wasn't the same. It was way more affordable than the rest of Canada. But, once COVID hit, everybody started looking to go east. Prices, went crazy. My parents are still there, and they just sold their house. And, for comparison, acre lot, just outside the city limits, but, 7 minutes of downtown, huge house, four or five bedroom, 3.5 bath, $500,000 Canadian. But those prices that was around COVID, and that's not really a thing anymore. You're buying a teardown in Vancouver, literally, or Toronto, for $1 million.
That's tough. That's tough whenever you're like trying to consider, like, as a younger adult, like, right, what do I want my future to look like? And is even home ownership in the cards for me if I stay here? And if it's not, then, like, are you okay with that?
Yeah. And I'm not hating on this. And, it seems to be, the stats that came out that the majority of people my age, mid 20s to like mid 30s, somewhere around there, the reason they own a home is because they've gotten a down payment as a gift from their parents, which was not an option for me. So it's, good on them that they had that, but I didn't have that option. So it's,
well, I can tell you, I didn't give any of my kids money for a down payment, so I didn't even know their parents did that. So thank God my kids didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
so let's talk about it. So you came down, your first visit, you came down on a vacation, correct?
Yep. I came down in 2010 with a bunch of friends. It was a crew. It was supposed to be 2 of us. It turned into 10 people that were.
Those are the best trips. Those are the best trips.
It's like herding cats. You know what I mean? It's, you get, you have that many people and everyone's butting heads, and some people want to do one thing and some people want to do another thing. It's like, you guys can go out to dinner by yourselves. I'm going to go do this. And, people get offended by that. And it's, we came down together to get, like, a deal on a place, but I'm not on vacation with you. You know what I mean? I don't have to, like, it's exhausting going on vacation with like a bunch of people. It's not a vacation. You go home and you need a vacation from your vacation because you're so exhausted from, playing tour guide and doing all this other stuff. But,
so you guys came down, a group of 10 of you, and you guys came to Santa Teresa?
Yeah, went to Santa Teresa first. We were there for 2 weeks. And then we left. Most of the group left and went wherever they went to. But me and 2 of my friends, we took a bus, went back to San Jose, and then kind of went up through like San Ramon and into La Fortuna, stayed there for a bit. And we kind of shuttled over to Guanacaste, Tamarindo, and then we're really vibing up there. And this is before Santa Teresa really blew up. So we're like, let's go back down to Santa Teresa. So we stayed there, and that's where I guess kind of fell into love with Costa Rica in that area anyway. So the whole country's beautiful.
So what was your plan? Like, so if you'd worked in hospitality in Canada, like, what was your plan when you came down? You're like, how am I going to survive? Or was there a plan?
I was like, I'm going to save up as much money as I possibly could and then come down here and, try to build a little property with the amount of money I had and, try to do what I couldn't do in Canada, right? Like, buy a property, develop it, live on it, not pay rent, and then potentially, maybe down the road sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it.
So you built in Canada, you built a tiny house.
Yes.
And so you went through that experience. So did you buy a trailer and then build it on it?
I bought a trailer from a gentleman in Vancouver, and then I had it actually parked in Whistler in like a storage yard behind my apartment. And when I wasn't working my 2 jobs, I would go and kind of plug away at this and just go little by little and put some money into it. And it took a while to build it because, again, it was just on my spare time. But it worked out. I mean, my original intent, like we were discussing yesterday, was to live in it, but then it just financially didn't make sense to live in it. So I was like, well, even before I was done it, that's when I started kind of looking into land in Costa Rica, and I was like, okay, I'll sell it and put that into land in Costa Rica.
So what year was that? 2019?
That when I was doing the tiny house, that was 2018.
Okay.
I started 2017 and finished 2018. And then That's when I finished it. I sold it in the spring of 2018, and then I came down in the fall of 2018 and found my lot and bought my property.
And so I think about this because I'm a parent of, I have kids about your age. And I think about like, what would I think? Like, so what did your parents think at that time? They were like, Jamie's an adventurer. He's going to do this thing.
Yeah.
Let him go. He's crazy.
Yeah, they were, they've always been supportive of what I wanted to do, but they were not, I don't know. They didn't really get it, at the time anyway, but
had they ever been to Costa Rica?
No. My parents were adventurous when they were younger, and they dwindled away, and they don't really travel or go anywhere. So they'll never come down here. I guarantee it.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to go. My mom definitely would never, but I could maybe convince my dad, but I'd have to fly back to Canada, hold his hand, bring him on the airplane, and literally bring him to the country. So I'm not opposed to it, but I can't see it. I can't see that.
I mean, I'm to each. I mean, I just can't imagine. Like I tell my kids all the time, I give them such crap. I mean, they're constantly like, I'm going to live to 129. So y'all just need to understand that. And my youngest son's like 129, whatever. And I'm like, Google it, Google me, bitch. You're going to find out.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to find out who I am. And he was like, Google you. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, you know what? I'm going to die. I'm going to be jumping off the side of a mountain with some stupid backpack that has some sort of a gliding thing connected to me. And on the way down, I'll be like, I'm bored and I'm just going to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love my parents to come down and, show them that I'm not living in a shack and, in the jungle by myself with no power. And, I mean, at least doesn't get down to like minus 40 like Canada. I think it's doable if you have to, but
I love it. So you came down and you bought yourself a lot.
Yeah.
In Santa Teresa.
Yeah. Just up the main road from the Crusade going to Santa Teresa. So still couldn't afford right in Santa Teresa, but I found a nice little lot just up the hill and 3-minute moto ride to town. It wasn't at the time it was far away, but now it's like
everything's kind of closed in around it, huh?
Yeah. It's, again, like I was saying, it's urban sprawl, right? Everything's, the place has boomed in the last couple of years. So
did you buy a vehicle also when you came down?
When I came down to buy the lots, I bought an old quad up a guy. So I had that and I left it with my friend when I went back to Canada, before moving down here. And so I had that ready to go when I moved down, which was nice. Yeah.
It's really all you need, as long as you're okay in the rain and you're going to get soaked. And
it gets it, you tell yourself that, and it's after a couple of rainy seasons in the jungle, you just don't want to be wet anymore. You know what I mean?
It's funny.
You want to go to the grow.
One of the first times we came down, like to Costa Rica in general, and like we didn't even know what area to go to. And I grew up in California, and so really the Pacific held no lure for me because I grew up in California on the Pacific, and the water was always cold, and I just did never really enjoy it. And so I had always wanted to be in the Caribbean. And so I kept looking for, when we had decided we were coming down for vacation, I kept looking on the Caribbean side and I couldn't find anything over there, like Airbnbs or anything that like looked like there was anything going on over there. And I was like, finally, I was just like, whatever, I'll just get a place on the Pacific. And so, we actually came to Guanacaste that first time. And we were, the Airbnb that I had found, or the VRBO I found, was in right outside of Garza. And we were south of like Nicoya, Plagiones, all of that. And so we had rented a car. We flew into Liberia and we had rented a car. And then we discovered that once you're over there, first of all, the roads are garbage. And really, every place that you need to go, you needed a quad to get there. Like there was all these little side roads that you needed to get down to the beach. So we found this American in the city that rented quads. Like they were pretty inexpensive. So we rented 2 for the entire time we were there. And we just literally rolled the entire time we were there. Like that car barely left the driveway, and we literally rolled the entire time that we were there on quads. And I generally, whenever the first time I went down there, I think we went down like at the end of May. So we were just coming into like the daily rains. They were just starting like every day. We were coming out of the high season, and but we took rain gear with us. But there were times like all of those dirt roads, they were driving cattle up and down them every day. Like the cattle were being herded up and down this dirt road. And at one point we got stuck in this torrential downpour where we had to put your sunglasses on, even though it was so dark because it was raining, just because so you could see, because the rain was so hard.
Hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts.
And I had a bandana over my face. Like we did everything. And I'm going to tell you that all four of us got E. coli from that muddy, rain-soaked water that was pushing back up off the road to us. I'm telling you, like, that was the longest trip home from eating cow poop out of the rain. Is what we were doing. It was like, we were all like, oh my God, what's wrong with us? And so
as my fiance would say, you just think of it as a cleanse, right? That's it. So.
It was a rough trip home, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, I get it. You don't get used to the rain, that much rain, because it's a lot.
I mean, when it rains, it rains. It was a couple of years ago. I was watching my friend's place after I sold my place, and it was just roads up in the like kind of the Santiago, the top of Santa Teresa area. It was almost unpassable. And it was a La Nina year, whatever year when it rained super hard. Literally, there was no in between, like kind of little summer. It literally rained from May until November.
Wow.
And it was, living in, seasonal depression is a thing, in Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. We don't, you don't see, the sun a lot in the winter. But I mean, like it was so hard on the head, especially trying to do construction and stuff like that. It's two steps forward, one step back.
And your frustration level just goes through the roof.
Yeah, because you're trying to organize backhoes and, all this stuff and workers. But if it's like, it's just, you're creating more damage than you're fixing when you're trying to do backhoe work. And it's just, when it rains here, it rains.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. For sure. So, okay. So now you own your lot. And I assume that you had determined you were going to build a small home on there?
Yeah. So I was like, obviously didn't have a ton of finances, but did the 3 casitas, 1 pool, rancho.
So where were you sleeping right now? Like, did you have friends down here that you were staying with?
I made friends when I came down to buy the land the year prior. I met some friends they were my friends at the time, but I met some guys that owned a hostel right in town called Brunella's. Still there, but no longer is operating. But so I stayed there. And then when I went to move down, I just moved in there as like kind of a long-term, semi-long-term, long-term tenant. So I mean, it was good. It's like, it was a hostel, but I had my own room. There's a pool upstairs and the breakfast every morning. Location was good. It's like, it was perfect. All my friends were there. So yeah, it was great. It was great. And I was only there for a couple months, and I moved my ass to be able to move onto the property as fast as possible. And I remember walking through a mud pit, and we had the one container on the property, and I've got like power running from my neighbor's house, and I'm walking, the property is just a swamp, and I'm walking with Butters like through the mud pit to try to get him into the house. We didn't have stairs into the one unit, and I was just trying to get him in there because I knew if he got like mud inside his paws, it'd be all over the bed, all over everywhere. So
that's funny. Okay, so on this property, you had determined you were going to build 3 casitas, and tell me about the construction of those. What were those?
I did obviously, like when I building my own tiny house and stuff like that. I could have built it myself, but for the sake of time, so I thought I would get a lady to their company in Ciudad Colon to do the whole like fabrication of them and delivery. So essentially I could focus on the infrastructure of the property, the pool, the landscaping, the rancho area, laundry room, kitchen, putting in the footings and all that stuff. Then essentially they would just have to come and just kind of drop them with a grua or like a crane just kind of drop them on the footings, and then
it was a container.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And did you do? And how big was it? Was it 20-foot?
They were 20-footers. Yes.
Okay, so you did 3 of those. Yes. Okay. And so inside of those, like when she had already fabricated those, so like bedroom, bathroom, closet, like what all was inside of a 20-foot?
So you'd walk in. So 2 of them, one of them was a prefab one that I got a discount on, that she already had pretty much completely done. So the middle unit was like you'd walk in and there was bathroom was to the right. It was like a small hallway that you kind of blow out, and then just be like bed and a little closet area. So it was, I guess, like you come in through like the smaller, what the doors would have been.
The narrow end.
Container. Exactly, the narrow end. So, and the other one, just for the sake of the design of the property, that one fit in perfect because it was kind of long and skinny. The other ones that were on the top and the bottom, that was my design. So they were kind of, horizontal to the property, and they had a little bit more. It was more of like a kind of larger studio layout with those ones. So you kind of walk in, the big sliding doors at the front, bed was on the side, clothes rack and all that stuff. And then to the right, you'd have, walk-in shower, your bathroom door, all that stuff. So, yeah.
So then was your pool also a container, or did you actually?
No, I didn't. I debated on that. I'm still debating on that. It's just with the oxidization
I hear you.
of them. I don't know how to feel about those, because once you get close to the beach, just everything just rusts and gets eaten. But no, I was going to do block at the time. It didn't make sense because block concrete rebar was a little bit more expensive. So I got just one of the fiberglass prefab ones. So you just kind of drop in.
Nice.
Which is actually great. I don't know if I do it again because the price differences now, they've kind of got a bit expensive, but at the time it made sense, and it served its purpose. It was great. It was always super cold. So it was, yeah.
And then, so on these, when you built them, like, did they have, did you build a deck on them also? So you had a deck out space?
Yeah, there was a deck in,
I know you built the ranch up too, but like on these.
Yeah. So with the container, think about that. It's very similar to a tiny house. It's like you sleep and you shower in there, but you don't really live. You're not in there. You're outside all the time. So that's why we focused on building like a big rancho outdoor kitchen area, living room area outdoors. But all the containers had large decks up the front of them.
Nice. So then I'm just asking because like I don't know this stuff. So you built the footings and the foundations for them to come and sit on. Did you add the deck after it was set in place?
Yes, yeah. Just for sake of space and movability with the cranes and the backhoes, we just built the decks off after. So.
Nice. And then did your property, because of your proximity to town, you had electric and water there?
I was very fortunate. So I was on it's a number de Paso. So it's not, for those who don't know, it wasn't a public road. And all the other land that was kind of further inside was essentially like fincas. They weren't
not residents.
Not 75% buildable. They were like, most of them are 25% builder if you're not like within, a certain distance to a public road or touching a public road. Luckily, where my lot was, I was within like 200 meters of the public road. So even though I was off the main road, not on a public road, I was still within that proximity of the Calle Principal that I would be able to have 75% buildable and fiber up, and everything was right there. So.
Nice. The property that we bought down in Golfito, it sits on this road. It's called Tower Road, and Issei literally has a tower at the very top of this road, right? Like, and all of the cell towers, everything are at the very top of this road. But the only person on this whole little mountainside right here that have electricity are at the very bottom of it. And so even though it's up there, I was like asking the question, I'm like, what will it take for me to get electricity to this piece of property? And they're like, oh, it'd probably be like $400,000. I'm like,
how far is the road?
The property's on the road, but there is no electricity on it. even though like the road is maintained by ESA, like the entire road on Tower Road is maintained by ESA, but nobody there has electric. So we're going to have to go solar.
So that's the thing is you think that like, okay, ESA is the government electrical company and they will come in and install this stuff for you. No, if there is nothing there and no infrastructure, unless there is, I think it's at least 10 homes, they won't come in and put in the infrastructure for you. You have to pay to put those power poles in and those transformers in and the fiber optic lines. Well, at least we have, Starlink just came out of the country. So, I mean, it's at least we have that, but I mean, in some of the more rural areas, especially down south, it's So
we're gonna go solar. We're gonna just figure out the whole thing because there's another house that's being built up there. There's a lot of property that's up there for sale, but there's like only another house right now that's like in the middle of construction up there right now, and they went solar. They went totally solar. So there's not like you can go, oh, there's 10 houses between here and there. Let's all split the cost, and it'll be $40K each. And yeah, that's affordable. We can do that thing. There's not. There's like us and even though there's a lot of property for sale up there, there's nobody that's up there building right now except for one dream.
But even if there was 10 plus people there, they'll put it in their list to install the power for you, but you could be waiting 10 years.
Oh, for sure.
And then the thing is, then as well, once you do install it and pay for everything yourself, then you have to sign off and you donate that to ESA. So you spend all that money and then you donate it to them because then they will maintain it. But it's Costa Rica.
So we are that the German that's building up there right now. Like he's got a beautiful large house up there, and he's taken his entire property solar. It has a big generator on there too. And so when we get ready, we'll just go hang out at his house for a while and see everything that he did and what he thinks he could have done differently and just pick his brain for that. And both of my sons are electricians. So they're like, they've been working literally on solar plants in the US. And so they're like, let us know what you're thinking, and then we'll start doing the research for it. So I'm okay with being solar, and I have water rights, so I'm good there too. So that would have been a problem.
Yeah, and solar has become more affordable in the country, even over the last 5 years. Yeah, exactly. But it's the same with everything. Like water's an issue, over in Santa Teresa, like area, whether even if you have city water. Or, Aya or Asada, even if you have that goes out sometimes. Like wells are dry right now. It's just, we're still in a rural part of the country even though they're starting to pave roads, right? But.
For sure. And I think people need to understand that when they're considering like moving to Costa Rica, first of all, deciding like what area you want to be in. Like, where do I want to be? What are the things that are important to me that I have access to? And then do I want to buy, or do I just want to rent or lease a property and not have to worry about, like, I have a friend that's lived down there for 8 years and she's never bought property. She literally will just rent the guest house I think I come and dog sit for her at least once a year. She has 5 dogs and 2 cats. So anytime she wants to come back to the States, she just will like, hey, what are you doing in November? And I'm like, you tell me. And I think I've come and dog sit at 5 different houses for her. Like she just moves when like there's something else comes open. It has a good view of a sunset. She's like, I think I'm going to move over there now.
I mean, it's definitely depends where you are. I find it's becoming a little more rare to find those, because people are either renting long term or they'll rent short term if they want to take off and travel somewhere. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's still an option.
Yeah, for sure. So now you developed that property. You had 3 casitas on there, your rancho, your outdoor kitchen, your pool, and do you still own that?
No, I sold that. So I met a Norwegian girl. We were discussing yesterday. I met a Norwegian girl at our friend's restaurant when I came down here to buy the lot in 2018, and we hit it off. We're really good friends. We're still really good friends. And so anyway, I went back to Canada. She was like, called me up a couple months later and she's like, hey, I just sold my house in Norway. I want in, let's go. And I was like, well, I was going to buy the lot regardless, but obviously I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do to the scale of what I wanted to do without, having another friend invest. So I said, all right. I was like, if you want to go, I'll quit my job, let's go. So anyway, moved down and did with her. And so then COVID hit, we were there and she did not want to sell. And, she was comfortable where she was and it's understandable. But I was like, the market went crazy. We can do well on this right now and then move into another project. And so I convinced her to sell, much as she didn't want to. So yeah, we sold in 2021, spring of 2021.
Nice. And that's
2022, spring of 2022. I don't even know.
So that's what we saw. We saw after the pandemic, after things started lessening up travel wise, and you could get back in, it was like a bunch of starved hyenas were like, oh my God, let's get in here and buy all of this stuff up. And we saw prices just kind of jump through what we had been used to. We had considered Uvita, like Dominical, Uvita, Oachal area. And then after COVID, after things were the development and the investor money came in, and then the prices just started climbing and climbing and climbing. And it was like, this isn't feasible for us. We didn't want to be on the back end of a boom, right? You always want to be in the front end of that boom, kind of like what you and your partner did, right? You guys were on the front end of that.
Buy low, sell high. What I mean? It's the way, and it's and a lot of people did come in, and I mean, the reason why our place sold fast was because it was reasonably priced, and I wasn't trying to gouge people. You know what I mean? I could have thrown up for $500,000, but I wasn't trying to do that. I know what I put into it. I knew the market in the area, but we were just trying to, we still did well with it, but we're not trying to take advantage of anybody, and we sold it for, I felt definitely for what it was worth.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely, people got absolutely taken. And one thing I heard years and years ago, I don't even know, on a somebody was like a travel show where people want to buy property, wherever someone's like, people come down, they fall in lust with the country. They're like, I need to have it. I have the cash flow. I have the access to money. I want this. And they're not really thinking smart. They're just like, I want it and I want it now. So, they buy something super high, which, it's a beautiful property, but there's no return on it. Eventually, if you do go to resell, it's like, once you build on it, and even if you buy something that's at the top, and the market came down quite a bit since then. Literally, we sold the top. And it's still quite high, but it's come down a fair bit, which is it's like anywhere.
That market adjustment is cyclical, always happen. Okay. So I know that you have your friend from Norway and you guys had sold your property. Did you guys go back into another property together, or did you just separate on that?
So we actually bought a finca. So I was organizing a finca that was just down the street from our old property at the end of the Sanabre Paso, which was about 4,000 square meters. And so I was organizing the segregation of that, because that road is public. It was in the process of being public. So a few of us went in and bought that lot across the street. I sold my portion of it. She still has her portion next to my old lot. And so I've actually been helping her build and develop that as of right now. So.
Is she permanent in Costa Rica now?
Yeah, she just got back. She was in Norway for a bit, just doing some family stuff and whatnot. But yeah, she's been here pretty much full time since I met her in 2018. So
nice. So at what point was it that you're down in Costa Rica, you're buying and developing your property, that you happen to stumble into finding the love of your life?
Yeah. No, she's a sweetheart. I love her to death. It definitely came out of nowhere. I was at my friend's restaurant in Product C. It's no longer, but rest in peace. So it was a fish restaurant in the Crusade in the center of Santa Teresa. And I was there, just hanging out, and I met, she had a friend, she's from Philadelphia, and she had a friend that I had met at that restaurant a couple years prior. And then, so COVID hit, Meg was working remotely, and so she came down, and I met them together at the restaurant. I mean, just all started hanging out, and, one thing led to the next, and yeah, here we are. And then, yeah, it came out of nowhere. It's funny. I've been a pretty independent person most of my life, and I was content just me and Butters, just doing our thing and living it up. But no, she's a sweetheart. I'm very, very fortunate that I met her.
So she's a Philly girl. Is she a football fan?
She is a Philly girl. I think she's a sports fan or whatever, bandwagons going around, right? So she just jumps on whatever. But it's kind of hard not to be an Eagles fan when I'm not a football guy by any means, but it's hard to not be an Eagles fan when you're when you live in Philly. I think you don't really have a choice.
I mean, here's the deal. Like we're huge football fans, and I live in Missouri, so I have a Kansas City Chiefs.
I was just about to say Kansas City. There you go.
But we're also, I mean, huge. Like I love Jason Kelsey is like, I think he's just the epitome of what a sportsman looks like, and we watched the entire broadcast yesterday of him, announcing his retirement, and it was so emotional. Is like, you just
sad day for Philly.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think everybody saw it coming, but it's hard to let that go. And so, we pull for any good teams. There are very few teams out there I can't stand, but there's some talent on every team. So our entire family is like generally following somebody. And it's funny, I tell a story because my daughter is the youngest of all my kids, and all of her brothers played football. And she was at the high school football stadium all the time, running wild, just like it's all fenced off. So we would just get there and I just let her go. And I would tell her, when that clock gets to this, you need to come find me. I'm going to be right here. And she didn't know shit about football. Like her entire life, she never looked up and paid attention. Right. And so as an adult, this is probably 9 years ago, we were going to a Chiefs game, and she's like, I want to go. And I'm like, why do you want to go? And she's like, well, I want to go. Like, maybe I will like football. And I'm like, okay, you're like, you're 21, 22 years old. Like, you haven't liked football up to this point. Like, I'm like, you're buying your own ticket. I'm not paying for your ticket to get in. And so she's like, okay, fine, I'll buy my own ticket. So I had to sit next to her the entire game because I've been a football fan since 1975. I grew up in California, and I was a Raiders fan when John Madden was our coach. Yeah. And so I've been watching football my whole life. And so I'm having to sit next to her the entire game because her brothers wouldn't, because she didn't know anything. She didn't know what a down was and how many of them, and how come they're giving them another down? What does that mean? Like, the ABCs of football. I was like, oh my God. And the funniest part of that is that was a Sunday game. Monday night, she goes out shooting pool with some friends, and the Monday night football game is on, and I don't even know what game it was. And she comes home so mad because a safety was scored in that football game, and she was yelling, going, "That's cheating. That's not even a rule. They're making up a rule. They're giving them 2 points for what? That's cheating." And she thought that after one game, she knew everything there was to know about football. And I'm like, look, I said, you have probably, 10, 15 years of watching football, and they're going to change the rules 100 times between now and then. It's hysterical. But now she is, we always tease her that she's on the spectrum. I believe she is a bit on the spectrum a little bit, because once she finally gets going with something, like she just is nose down. Like I'm telling you, she can tell you the coach of every NFL team out there. I mean, all of the things, all of this stuff, and stuff that I don't even follow. Like I won't even follow like who's the coach for that team right there. And she'll know that's like the number 3 rated kicker in the nation, and and he's got no chance. He can never hit anything outside of 50 yards. Like she'll know this crap now. And it's kind of hysterical. So she's kind of the savant now. So we need to know something. I'm like, who is that? And she'll go, oh yeah, that's Coach so-and-so. Oh, great. So yeah, so you got a Philly girl, and is her family all cool with the whole Costa Rica thing too?
So I went back and I met them in what was it, last summer. I went up and met them and went up to into New York and upstate New York and met them on. Yeah, no, it was they were fine with it. I mean, she's always been a traveler, so it. I think it was a bit different that like okay, I'm moving down there,
Yeah.
but no, they were fine with it. You know, I'm not a dick. I'm a nice guy, so it's. I mean, if I would have rolled up and pissed the whole family off, I think it would have been a little bit different. But
Probably. You're a little likable, maybe.
yeah, something like that.
Okay, so so traveling with dogs, I know a lot of people are like, oh, should I bring my dogs down there? Should I not bring them? What should I do? So your experience traveling with Butters, pretty
I had a great experience.
Yeah?
Like he killed it. He'd never been on a plane. No, sorry, he was on a plane when I went from. I was in Calgary, shipped it out there and whatnot. But this was a bit longer of a trip, I would say. Because we went west coast to east coast before moving down, but we went New Brunswick to Montreal. Then Montreal, we ended up getting a direct flight down, and we flew Delta, and they gave him his own seat. Like we were right above first class, right behind first class. They gave him his own seat. He was cool. He killed it. I mean, I got his papers done for so he'd be able to fly as people do. But he did crack down a little bit on it, or a little bit more on it. I'm not sure. I still see people flying with their dogs all the time, and I see people like on vacation with their dogs. So there must be still some sort of loophole. I mean, they're your family. Like if you want to buy them the seat next to you, why can't you just do that? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, he killed it. Then we landed in San Jose, and we went right over to the domestic terminal, and then we took there's a little small Green Airways flight. They have a little tiny pink and black plane. I don't know if it's still in operation, but they had that. And,
it has all the stickers. All the stickers are on it.
Yeah. So we walked up, and I was talking to the pilot, and it was just us on the flight. There was nobody else flying over to Tambor, and he was like, has Butters ever been in like a small plane like this? And before he even finished the sentence, Butter was like, didn't even like step on the stairs, just hopped right in the plane, and he was there. And I was like, so yeah, he killed it. Yeah, he did really, really well. But he's, yes, as the title is right now, he is retired. And there's no point. I won't take him back to Canada. There's no point, right? So hey, bud, yeah, I heard us talking about him.
So, but you've added to your puppy family though too.
Yes, I did. Yeah, there's little brother Margie who's over there right now. But yeah.
So, did you get him in Costa Rica? The little brother? Did you get him?
Yeah, he's Tico. I got him from a lady in Escazú, and he is very Tico. He is just like any other Tico dog. He's just feral and would rather be. He's really good, but he would be much more happy just sleeping out in the dirt in the yard and chasing cars and running in the montañas. But
I have the friend that I dog sit for. She brought an Australian Shepherd down with her and a I think maybe a golden retriever, and then the rest of her dogs were she worked at a rescue center, and so she would like either foster or adopt, and she had these two. She called them the jungle pups, Cassie and Clay, and they'd rather be in the jungle all day long. I mean, if you took them for a walk, you needed to have them on a leash because otherwise they're chasing pasotes. They're like doing they're like literally just having the time of their life out in the jungle. And then they would come back exhausted. Mud.
Yeah, these guys are still like they still got the terrier in them, and they still they still want to like chase lizards and stuff like that. But I've got them pretty good. Like if they start to like run after something, like I never had them on a leash. Like and they're very well trained. And if they weren't, I would have them on a leash because there's enough asshole dogs in Santa Teresa, to say the least, off leash. But I mean, you hear so many stories about these dogs just like chasing after whatever animal and just getting shredded.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? By a pisote or whatever it is. So, I mean, especially at night, like, yeah, I keep them on a quote unquote short leash, I guess you'd say.
Right. I'm sure 100%. So, one of the things that, so where do you live right now?
Like right now,
what is this place?
I'm in Santa Ana, so I bought a little condo here when I sold my house. Just kind of trying to put the money somewhere, so I bought a little condo in Santa Ana, and it was vacant for a while. And the guy got stuck in Spain during COVID, and I bought it, and then got stuck in Spain. Went back to Europe and got stuck in Spain for COVID, so it kind of like rented for a little bit, then sat empty.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I wouldn't say dilapidated, but it definitely sat for a while. So I got it. I got a good price on it, and I completely renovated it.
Nice.
So it's kind of our little. We actually just going to start Airbnb it as of tomorrow. We're going back to the beach. So,
nice.
But yeah, no, it's nice. And we're kind of iffy about getting it at first, but we've fell in love with Santa Ana. It's nice. It's nice to get again, like when it is super rainy over in the beach or in the jungle. It's nice to kind of get out and be able to come back and, wash the jungle off you and, go to the mall and go out to eat and, have a little bit of a sense of the real world, I guess.
Sense of civilization.
Yeah, exactly. So and the proximity to Santa Ana, there's actually a lot of people that live in the area who have places here that live in Santa Teresa, especially because you get on the highway, go on Route 27 and you just, you're hour and a half to Punta Arenas, depending on traffic. You're at the ferry, and then hour and a half across Bacara, then an hour and a bit to Santa Teresa. So the proximity is great. You don't have to deal with all the traffic of downtown or Escazú. You can kind of stay away from it if need be. So
what are you doing for income?
So I've been doing construction since I finished building my place in 2019 ish. I've been building for friends. I just finished a project for a couple of friends they're from north of Toronto and Collingwood. So they've been actually, I finished building that. It's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath pool,
nice.
Decent sized property. I've been finished building that, and then I started property managing that. So I do property managing, consulting, and construction, and pretty much I need all of it. So
just figured out how to make it all work. And is Meg
do what I can, not to have to go back to Canada, right? So
is Meg still doing her work online, or did she kind of just transition to?
She does. So she actually just started her own company. She does med writing. So she was in pharmaceuticals. So started her own company doing med writing and stuff like that. So she worked a lot before she's moving down here. So she's kind of taking a bit of a sabbatical, I guess. She was very stressed out with the job she was doing before, and it was very, very.
Well, that's. That industry in itself is.
Yeah, it was.
So I liken it to the fact that I was a mortgage lender for Wells Fargo during the mortgage meltdown, right? So to be a pharmaceutical, to be working in pharmaceuticals during a time right now when everything on there is these people are the devil, right?
Yeah, it's an intense industry, and I don't even know how she did it. I could never do what she did. So it's been tough on her, moving down, and obviously, getting rid of, she made really good money, but moving down and kind of getting rid of that and not having that again, fortunately enough, you can live quite cheap down here, and your expenses aren't nearly as much. She didn't still have her, $2,000 a month apartment in Philly, and was down here part time or whatever. So I rid of some expenses, but it's it's hard going from making that amount of money to not having that anymore. But
don't you find that you need less stuff?
No, me definitely. I've always been a very minimalist person. Meg's trying to do her best right now, and getting rid of, maybe she doesn't need as many clothes.
It's funny because whenever so we leased a place in Vida for a year, and whenever I brought down my wardrobe for down here, I literally went to Goodwill and just bought shirts and then Old Navy tank tops. I had my Keens. I had some shoes. I didn't care some running shoes. I didn't care if they got muddy or they got nasty, and bandanas, right? Bandanas and fishing hats. This is my wardrobe here. If I look homeless, nobody here cares.
Yeah, it's we leave. We kind of have some of our city stuff that we leave here. I can't wear a white shirt in Santa Teresa because that will last a whole of 30 minutes, and there isn't enough bleach in the entire country to get that thing white again. So it's, we have like some stuff that we're like, yeah, we do not take that to the beach. Because between, the high humidity or, whatever, it's just, it will not last, and it will get, especially if you don't wear something. It doesn't even matter if you have it in like in an AC'd house, like
Right.
it's stuff just molds and everything just grows on everything down there. So if you don't want it ruined, don't take it to the beach or anywhere near there. Keep it, at least here it's like, it's kind of temperate, right? So we don't have the humidity up in the Central Valley.
So, we when we spoke about residency, and that, since they've moved the visa timeline now, like your visas are good in Costa Rica for 180 days now. And I think there's a lot of people that are choosing to not move forward with residency because they just don't feel it's necessary now. Are you on that same train?
I had that conversation actually this morning with my friend Peter, who I built that house for up the street from my old spot I was talking to you about yesterday. But he was like, oh, maybe I'll get residency. And I was just saying to him, like, there's just, the benefit's not there. We're still down here. We're still investing in the country. We're not taking, the fact that we have 180 days now, we're not spending money to go fly somewhere else or leave the country or do whatever. That money's staying in the country, which is very, very smart for retaining people here, because some people that weren't maybe as set up as us would say, oh, screw it, I'm going to leave and go to Mexico for a bit, or I'm going to do whatever. So them doing 180 days was very intelligent. But that being said, I'm like, I don't see the need for it. I'm still investing money in the country. I'm building, I'm doing whatever. I have my company, and but for me, I think I'm better off to leave every 90 or 180 days. Sorry. I'll have my foreign travel insurance, and I can still go if I want to go to a hospital SEMA in Escazú. I can go there, and I can pay for private coverage if need be. Because again, I can, I'll go into, like, once I have residency, I can, there's some benefits of it for sure. I can get loans and stuff like that. But I mean, I've gone this far without borrowing money from anything or anybody. Like, why would I want to take a loan from a Costa Rican bank? So I personally don't see the benefit. That's just my personal opinion. It might benefit some other people, maybe a little bit more, but for me, this doesn't make sense at this point in my life.
Yeah, so we set up our corporation in Costa Rica in, I want to say 2016. It was right around there, and I mean, we renew it every year. We do our taxes, we do all the things. So like whenever we go to, so we bought our property down in Golfito. We bought it within that corporation, and then any business that we start, I mean, we're ready to go to. And I think we've had that discussion amongst us too. And I think you're right. I mean, the benefits of, like, I mean, I was talking to my husband the other day about like insurance stuff, and I'm like, look, we could self-pay, like for what, I mean, as much as I go to the doctor for anything, I don't see that as an issue at all. And I can't imagine that being a problem down here. Self-pay or buy, your foreign traveler insurance. I mean, I think you're probably right. Like I was speaking to, I was interviewing a gentleman on Sunday, and he had married a Tico, and she worked for IBM, and they live up in the Central Valley, and they were separating but not divorced yet. And as soon as she found out that he had got diagnosed with cancer, she took him off of her insurance. And I mean, he's got a lawsuit going up for right now. And he goes, I'm not sure, but I think that she was just hoping that I couldn't get any medical help, and then I would just die and she would get everything. And I'm like, holy cow, you have a really bad picker.
Yeah, that's ruthless.
But he was telling me some of the, stories of having to be in the public system and how long it's taking, to get, and he actually had a doctor finally just say, look, I'm going to set you up for an MRI, go get it. And he gets it done maybe today. It may have been today he's getting it done, but within the system, if he had stayed within the system and his doctor hadn't pulled a favor for him, he wouldn't be getting one until June.
Yeah, and that's what we're discussing. It's from what I've heard. I'm not fortunate enough. I haven't had to go into hospital SEMA in Escazú for anything, but anybody that I've talked to or anybody that's had to go in there for anything has been able to. It's been very streamlined, very professional, affordable. And like the we were talking about like Canada's healthcare is a joke, and anybody who's from Canada will say that as free as it is. You're waiting 2 years for stuff, and it's like I can talk to a doctor through WhatsApp and get in an appointment for an MRI in 1 week, like with X-rays and everything like that for $150 Canadian. Like that's who's living in the first world country now. You know what I mean? Like,
right. So are you? So then, when you're accessing healthcare, are you accessing on the private? Not the public, right?
Yeah. I've had travel insurance since I've lived down here, and again, knock on wood, I haven't had, so unfortunately, I haven't had to go in and deal with anything significant. I've had ear infection here or there or whatever, but nothing too crazy. But I mean, even if for some weird reason I had gone and got my residency and I was paying into Caja and all that, even before this whole 180-day change thing, I don't think I would go and wait, especially in Kobano. Like I've seen the lineups, people go and sit there all day. It's like, you're sitting in the waiting room all day to like see somebody. It's like, if I had something, Jurassic or whatever, I could fly to San Jose in 25 minutes if I really, really had to, you know what I mean? And I Ubered to the hospital within, 10, 15 minutes. So, that's the route I would take for sure.
So if I ask this question all the time. So when you moved down here, what is something that was more difficult than that you didn't expect? Like you're like, I didn't expect this thing to be as difficult as it is. What are those things that like you were like caught off guard by in Costa Rica that just seemed more difficult than it really had to be?
I think it was like, I don't know. I was like, I had a pretty good run of the first of it, which helped me build up my tolerance to the, how slow things are and how things work. So I got fortunate. I think maybe I like just built up my head that was going to be worse than it actually was, or maybe I just got really, really lucky. And I did do my research, and I had, some very good friends of mine that I picked their brain, and I did my due diligence before coming down, and I talked to people who know what's up, and that's what I try to give to people as well. As I try to help them not have to deal with as much bullshit as possible. And
right.
But I think, yeah, I got pretty lucky, and I didn't have anything like super, super crazy. Now it's just like, I don't know, maybe I just accept it. There's always going to be stuff that goes wrong, and it's just the way things work here. And you just have to accept it and keep moving forward. But it's maybe I just have a higher tolerance level than most. I don't know.
I think mine was, I think I was totally in shock of how long banking took.
Okay, now I'll retract everything I just said. Can I swear on here?
Oh, for fuck's sake, yes.
Fuck the banks. Fuck the Costa Rican banking system. Thank you for saying that. I hate Banco Nacional with a passion. Go to Bach. Anybody who watches this, go get an account with Bach. I've never had the worst service of my entire life. I can't believe I never thought about that. Banks are the entire country is fine. Everything's great. You try to do anything, their app is so primitive. It's like somebody built it in 1995.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's so ass backwards. It's so ass backwards. I've complained because in Santa Teresa, you have the bank in Santa Teresa, the Bank Nacional there, and you have they just opened a La Fosse, which I haven't dealt with them. I've heard it's good, but I have a great experience with Bach, so I want to go get a Bach account.
I've never even heard of that bank.
But BAC, it's great. So this is the difference. So you go into the Bank Nacional in Kobano, and they have 3 people working, and the lineup is out the door. It is 2 to 3 hours of your day to do anything. But you can go to now kind of figured out, you can go to the little service, you pay a fee, but you can go to the Bank Nacional service spots where you just kind of go in. You can do basic transfers and stuff like that. I know you pay a fee, you'll be in and out of there in no time. But it's just like, I don't know what it is. Like, shoot, you go there and you'll be waiting for 2 hours, and then you're about to get to the caja, and then they're like, "Oh, close. I'm going to go for lunch." It's just like it's so ass backwards. But if you go to like, and it's not just because it's near the beach. You go to the Banque Nationale and the Multi Plaza in Escazú, and the Banque Nationale is the exact same, but you go next door to Bach, and it's like the service is impeccable. Every caja or every teller, every teller is open. The service is great. You're in and out of there in no time. It's as it should be. I don't know. It's like they're just trying to save on labor, so they'd rather have you sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours and fucking piss you off. I don't know. It's just
we had all of the papers from our attorney. So we went to BCR, and we were in San Isidro because that's where my attorney is, and so he'd given us all of the documents that we need. And I'll tell you the funniest thing: the first time I ever went into a bank in Costa Rica, I thought it was a prank, right? Because they had probably 10 rows of chairs, right? They had 10 rows of chairs for people to sit in. And if you haven't experienced this, I'm telling you this for your own humor, people watching this. And so when one person would get
I know where you're going with this.
Get called up to go to the bank teller, everybody in the line would stand up and move over one seat and sit back down again. I was literally videoing it going, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
So they brought those in for COVID at the Banque Nationale in Cobano. They brought it in for COVID, but like everybody's just like fingering the chairs and sitting down and like it just doesn't make any sense, man. It is.
So we were in the bank that day. We were in the bank that day when we had all of our papers from our attorney, everything that we needed, all of the documentation that we needed. We were in that bank for 7 hours that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like to the point where my husband, because my business partner and myself, we were opening our bank account. Brian wasn't my husband wasn't on the corporation. Yeah. And like, he just was like, he would come in and go out. And finally he was like, he would go get us lunch and bring it back in. I mean, like I'm like, I'm going to die sitting here. Like can you get us some snacks or some lunch or whatever? So he'd like bring us food in, but it was literally 7 or 8 hours just to get that bank account open. It was craziness.
I will never understand the banks.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're waiting there for 2 hours, and then, people will come in and they'll go to like if someone's pregnant or elderly or whatever, and they're like the line, or if they're like hurt, they'll go to this line. So you're waiting there and you're like eyeing these people up. I'm like, man, I've been here for 2 hours. I'm like, how old are you really? Like you have gray hair, but you're walking fine. Like you're probably like 55. Should you really be in like the elderly line? Or someone will come in and like not hurt, like a young person. I'm like, why are you in that line and butting in front of everybody? You should not be there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It is what it is, but the banks are, I don't understand the banks. So when I was setting up my business accounts, luckily my lawyer that was helping me do all this was, just a block and a half around the corner from the Banque Nationale in Cobano. So I would go in there, I was on the platform and doing all this stuff. I had a list of everything I needed. I mean, it's not their first rodeo. They figured they've done this stuff before. They knew like everything that needed to be done for me to have this. And for some reason, it just wasn't working. And she's like, no, I need this. I need this change. So every time she needed something, I was like, for the love of God, please don't send me to the back of the lot. I'm literally going to run to the lawyer, to a block and a half away. And so I'd like call him, or she'd call him and be like, okay, he's running over. So I'd run over and I'd come back. I did that, no word of a lie, 5 or 6 times. I kept leading, and I was there all day. And it's just one of those things. And avoid BCR. I mean, they used to have a branch in Santa Teresa, and I had great service from them. But it's when I was trying to withdraw money from my Canadian account before I had a Costa Rican account, they wouldn't charge me an absorbent amount of money to withdraw money. Like, I think if you took out $2,000 out of your bank account, foreign account, Banque Nationale charges you like $200 or something like that, where BCR wouldn't do anything. So yeah. Anyway, if you can avoid it, Bach is the way to go. Their app's good. Their customer service is great. It's fuck Banque Nationale.
Yeah, so I'll look at them up whenever we come down there, because I'm sure that after we're down there after we have all of our stuff going for the property, we're probably going to have some different banking stuff going on. So, Jamie, if there's one thing that you would want somebody to know that's coming down to Costa Rica, and you're like, this is why I love this place so much, what is the thing that, like, whenever you leave the country and you come back, that you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm here because what?
And I mean, the people are really nice. There's shitty people everywhere, but
Sure.
I've made some really, really good friends down here. Not even just like, Ticos, but, just some of the expats that you will vibe with. I've made some fantastic friends down here, and it keeps me coming back. Obviously the climate's great, but again, for me, it's the opportunity that I would never have in Canada. And I'm very, very, very fortunate to be here. And, as much bullshit as you deal with banks or things day to day, I just blew my tire out in a curb out front. So I'm literally going to leave here and take my car to hobble it down the street and go get the tires changed. But, it's when it comes to, taxes, quality of life, it's expensive versus, some things are way more expensive versus, Canada or the US. But for the most part, your general quality of life is far superior in my eyes than anything I'd be able to have in Canada.
But
what we're
comparing it to, though, is like for me, a lot of these people are moving not from like coastal areas. They're moving from like middle America or middle Canada, where we're somewhere that's not like, a popping place. And then they're going, oh my God, stuff's so expensive down here. And I'm like, okay, if you lived in this climate in the US, what would your bills be? What would you be paying for rent? What would you be paying? So if you were comparing it to a Florida or a coastal Texas area or a Southern Cal down in Orange County somewhere, really, is it expensive? Because that's the climate you're getting.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And like, my condo is not massive by any means. But it's really nice. My amenities are fantastic. My power bill is like, if I don't go crazy, but even, AC and, washer, dryer, all that stuff, my power bill is like $50 a month. My Wi-Fi is my Wi-Fi is a little bit more expensive. I think my Wi-Fi is like 70, but we have some pretty fast Wi-Fi. But I mean, the maintenance for the condo, like security, my water, I have great amenities, pool, hot tub, sauna, gym, all this stuff. Nice. I'm paying $150 a month. No, $125 a month I pay for maintenance. Like, that's just, I pay $50 a month for a double parking spot that's covered. Like, it's just, the overhead for the place is, and I paid $80,000 for the spot. You know what I mean? I've got an amazing view on the patio, huge deck, overlooking the mountains in the Central Valley over like Escazú and stuff like that. I would not be able to have this anywhere in Canada. And I'm sure, I don't know where I'm getting a condo in the States for $80,000, with like that. But
well, it would be in Detroit somewhere maybe, but you wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the overhead, and it's like that, with most of it, like your property tax. That's the biggest thing. Your property tax is 0.25%.
Yeah,
like, that's just that alone makes it worth it to move down.
For sure. Well, Jamie, I'm so glad to meet you, and I hope that someday we get to meet in person.
For sure.
I hope that what you've shared helps somebody else make a decision if they're thinking about coming. And I don't even think I haven't been to where you're at. Like, I've been Guanacaste and I've been in the southern zone. But I don't think like I've gone through like Santa Teresa or Santa, like any of those. I don't think I've spent any time there. So I look forward to doing that my next trip.
Absolutely.
So it's been great. Everybody, if you got some value from here today, please subscribe, download, do all of the things, like, share. If you know somebody who's looking and considering becoming an expat, moving from their home country to Costa Rica, be kind and share this episode with them and let them get some insight to that. Other than that, we're all here to tell you, go live your best life. Pura Vida.